everybody. This is Evelyn, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the new moon in Aries. And I've called this, it's April. Let's do it. Aries is all about action and making things happen. So consider the plans and dreams you've been enjoying in Pisces and now put them into action. Let's have another look at protein in our diet. I spoke about it last time, so we'll look at it a little bit more detail today. Compare the people's responses to the Gutenberg printing press way back in history to the current responses to the chaos in our world. Are there parallels? Let's see. And I still find Florence very inspiring and valuable. So let's see where we go with this. Let's first look at the new moon in Aries. So new moon in Aries occurs here in Australia on Friday afternoon, about 4:30 or 5:30, depending on which time zone you're in. And as Aries is the beginning of the Zodiac wheel, it rules new beginnings. And as the first new moon after the Equinox, which was the 21st of March, it has particularly powerful Aries energy. And so this is an ideal time to initiate new projects or activities, especially something you haven't done before. And depending on where this falls in your astrological chart is where this energy is most effective. And if you don't know, message me and I can help you find that out. Consider the plans and dreams you have been enjoying in Pisces and now put them into action. Aries is also about self. Honor yourself and your skills and talents. Do a SWOT. Maybe this is old-fashioned, but have a look at your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities that presents to you, and the threats that are presenting to you. Do that analysis on you. You might do it for a business, but why not do it on you? Ask your best friend to help you, because often we don't see our own strengths. Sometimes we don't see our own weaknesses. And this Aries time is the time to assert your own individuality. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a bossy boots, but rather simply asserting your own strength and authority and seeking to address aspects of yourself that you would like to change. Aries is a warrior energy, so do be bold and go into battle for what you believe, even though it might be different from somebody else. You can acknowledge others' beliefs and articulate your own without putting others down. You know, we are allowed to have different opinions and still be friends. Last month, I spoke about protein in the diet and the opinion of Dr. Zach Bush, who's done quite a lot of research in this area and is quite articulate about diet and the role of our environment in our health. And I referred to video material of Dr. Bush discussing protein in our diets. And he claimed that most of us eat far too much protein for our body's needs. I've since purchased his health course, in which he provides more detail and references. So until recently, it's been my understanding that we need a little protein as part of every meal. And my own experience has been that if I have a decent breakfast, including a protein source such as eggs, fish or cheese, my body lasts well into the day before I feel hungry again. What about you? Do you need breakfast, or are you one of those people who doesn't care much about breakfast and rather has a decent meal about 11 o'clock? And you know what? It doesn't matter. We are all individuals and we have to eat according to the needs of our bodies. Anyhow, about the protein, it would seem that I've been duped, like so many others, by the so-called experts on dietary matters. Am I an expert? No, I'm simply asking you to ask yourself some questions and do your own research. Apparently, we need a fraction of the protein that we consume on a daily basis. Our bodies cannot create protein and muscle for our bodies with the protein from the meat sources in particular. But apparently our bodies can create protein or the amino acid building blocks for protein synthesis from glucose in our diet. So why are we consuming so much protein? Perhaps I need to change my beliefs. From another reliable source, I learned that breast milk has just 5% protein. Yet babies thrive on this sole food source for up to 6 months and double their birth weight. So if this is the case, it would seem that we have been consuming far more protein than we actually need. So what is protein? And how much do you regularly consume? Protein sources are fish, meat, eggs, cheese, grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, mushrooms, and some vegetables. So, in what proportions do you consume these foods daily? According to Zach, we need up to 40 grams of protein per day maximum, preferably plant-based. But you know, how often have you enjoyed a piece of steak up to 250 grams in weight? It's been delicious. But what does the body do with the excess protein? Apparently, our bodies convert the excess protein to fat in our bodies. And depending on the protein source, our bodies can suffer from putrefaction in the gut from excess meat, causing undesirable urea and other noxious substances to be released by the body. Wow. I will expand this urea story on the next newsletter and the next new moon. Another cogent reason to consider reducing protein and relying more on plant-based sources is that blood pressure is apparently better with a plant-based protein diet. And you know, while you're young, you don't have many issues with blood pressure. But as our bodies get a bit older, this can be an issue. So, with the predominant protein source in our society so far being meat, there are also many concerned with the degradation of the soils generated by the hooves of those animals and their contribution to the noxious gases in our planet. And many raise a question about the efficient use of the land for producing protein. So what do you think? Is it better to run cattle, sheep, pigs, or plant a field of lentils or beans or peas? I am finding that my body does fare better and better on a diet with less meat and animal-based protein, and that my blood pressure is accordingly stable and normal. My brain tells me that if we wish to reduce our animal protein consumption, it would be smart to gradually change protein sources rather than go cold turkey. What do you think? Some people genuinely enjoy eating meat, and some people still need some meat in their diets. We are omnivores after all. And I believe that diet is a very personal aspect of our lives. Every body has differing needs, and we each need to consider carefully what we actually put into our mouths. We are what we eat. Food for thought? You know, about 600 years ago, there was a chap called Johannes Gutenberg. He was a German goldsmith, and he's credited with inventing the first printing press, or not necessarily the first printing press, but inventing a printing press around 1436. Although he was far from being the first to automate the book printing process, because woodblock printing in China dates back to the 9th century. and Korean bookmakers were printing with movable metal type at least 100 years before Gutenberg. However, by 1440, Gutenberg had established the basics of his printing press, including the use of a mobile, reusable set of type. And within 10 years, he had constructed a working prototype of the press. So in 1454, Gutenberg put his press to commercial use, producing thousands of indulgences for the church. I'm not sure what indulgences for the church were, but I presume it was written material. Now, Evelyn, why is all this relevant in the 21st century? Now, consider that in the 1400s, books, as we know them, simply did not exist. Books had been printed or handwritten for centuries, but they were limited in number and their readership was restricted to those who were educated or had the funds to purchase such items. And at that time, the church had a dominant role in society and controlled what the people could access and learn. And of course, the church had scholars who were very literate and numerate and had access to all these books. Most of the people were illiterate and innumerate, so they could easily be controlled. So once books were more easily available, people became aware of the control being exerted upon them by the church in Rome. And when enough people were awake, the dominance of the church in people's lives began to wane. Part of that was the Reformation, which offered folk different options and enabled Martin Luther in the early 1500s to cede from the dominance of Rome. Okay, so now move on in history to the current times. There is a sector of our community that believes that we, the people, are being directed by a small group of folk who would control us. Stories abound, and it's really difficult to know what is true from either side of the discussion. The parallel with the 1400s is that the internet is available to everyone, and news can be easily disseminated via that medium. And despite efforts to control and censor some information on many platforms, information abounds. Do you know what? The truth will come out, just like it did in the 1400s. We currently have Neptune in Pisces, enabling confusion, illusion, disillusion, fantasy, dreams. And it is very difficult to discern the truth about what is going on in our world. Now, the interview, the details of which I leave in the comments, this interview with Edward Dowd came to me via one of my various feeds. Edward Dowd was a managing director with BlackRock from 2002 to 2012 and has spent most of his career on Wall Street. Currently, he's a consultant for Symphonic Capital. And he believes there's a fraud happening with Pfizer and Moderna. And he believes this is affecting our financial markets, Wall Street, and public health. Have a look, see what you think. Food for thought. I want to talk about a moon group. You know, the moon is such a powerful energy in our world. And every month where possible, I connect with the Gita school where I trained as a yoga teacher, and I enjoy a full moon meditation run by Lucille. And these 1-hour sessions focus on the current energy and how we can best direct it in our lives. We then spend 20 minutes or so in silent meditation. For me, it's a great way to stay connected with my tribe and focus energies. So recently, I've been invited to do something similar in my local community. So on Thursday night, we arranged for a moon group to gather at the new moon is actually in a couple of hours' time as I'm speaking now, but we gathered for the new moon discussion on Thursday night. And we considered the new moon energies and how that energy fits into each person's individual chart. And really the purpose of the discussion is to raise awareness about astrology, help the participants understand more about astrology, and particularly understand where that new moon energy fits into the individual astrological charts of those in the group. And as we become more familiar with the energy of astrology, we can understand better how to use the astrological energies to positively impact our lives. And you know, as women, it is another opportunity to build a tribe of like-minded folk. And so the plan is to try this arrangement for 3 months. So new moons in Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, and then reassess the activity. We live in changing times and must be prepared to adjust our activities in response to what happens around us. So if you know of someone, or if you'd like to be part of that moon group session, we currently conducting that at Coolangatta, please message me and we can have further discussion and see if you might be able to join us for the next 2 new moons. The times in which we live reminds me of this serenity prayer, which many of you have already encountered. God grants me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We can't change what's happened in the past, but we can influence the future by taking action within our own lives in the present moment. Now, I want to tell you about Ian's story. I never knew Ian, but I encountered him regularly at a local busy intersection. Ian would cycle to the intersection and prepare himself to wash windscreens for cars stopped at the lights. He had a spray bottle and a windscreen wiping scraper device. And there were times when I allowed him to clean my windscreen and I would offer him a coin in return. And there were many who did the same. Now, I don't know how much Ian collected, but I guess it supplemented his income in some way. You see, I learned that Ian was homeless by choice. He always wore a cheerful smile and he never scowled or responded negatively to those who said, "No thanks, I don't want my windscreen cleaned today." So recently I drove through that intersection. I'm looking to see where Ian is, but no, where he normally is, there was a cross and flowers and notices where he normally puts his bike and equipment. And in time I learned that he had met with a nasty accident and died. Caught on video. Apparently he was knocked off his bike and then savagely beaten by some passerby and run over by a passing vehicle. Life's not fair. That's a very sad ending for what was appear to be a good energy. So why do I share a sad story like this? The tributes to Ian from folk who could never have known him have been amazing. And I suspect that Ian would be surprised to know how much of an impact his small acts of service had on so many folk. He was homeless, and many folk would have judged him simply for that. So the lesson to me is be boldly yourself, especially at this Aries new moon time. You are unique and amazing. You do not know what impact you might have on another by just being you. Never mind any acts of kindness or service that you might perform. My yoga classes on the beach continue, although they've been impacted by rain over recent weeks. I don't teach when it's raining, it's not really nice. And this month, in April, there is a surf carnival at Broad Beach, and the space where we normally use on a Saturday is fenced off. So we've located a place south of the surf club for the next few Saturdays. Many of my students enjoy the outdoor classes with the fresh air and the sound of the sea in the background. It's beautiful. Maybe that's you. Come and join us. One final matter. When I was dealing with an unexpected and difficult life event several years ago, I found the teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn very useful. She was a metaphysician living in the early 1900s. Florence wrote The Game of Life and How to Play It. Together with 3 of her other books, I have it in my library. And I've been referring to her quite a bit recently in order to support and inspire others. Her name has also been mentioned in several conversations recently. Your word is your wand is a useful tool to have to help you focus your thoughts and your activities. Remember that energy follows thought. And so with our thoughts and our words, our words are so important. You can create anything you want by simply aligning your thoughts and your words with the perfect good that resides divinely within you. So an apt last word from Florence for Aries energy. Never look or you'd never leap. You enjoy your new project. Find ways to get involved in your community and put those action plans into place while Jupiter is in Pisces, helping you dream big, and the sun and moon are in Aries, giving you the energy to make it all go. Have a super month. That's all for now.